Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a quick project for you today. I'm creating a journal to work through Junk Journal July, and what I'm using are some pages. These are little pages that I pulled out of the center of signatures from a book that I altered a while ago, and I'm going to be assembling these with this. This is actually like shipping tape that you would put on a box or whatever, and it's got an adhesive on one side, and you just get it wet, just misting it with my Tim Holtz sprayer, and I'm using a little foam brush to kind of spread the water around, and then it activates the adhesive on the back, and then you can basically adhere these two pages together. So this works really well for single sheets if you're trying to create a junk journal or an art journal, but you don't have like folded signatures. And you just have loose paper. You can do it this way. And for a project like this, it's kind of perfect because I'm going to be collaging and doing all kinds of stuff over the top of this. So it's not going to matter. And I don't have to worry about, sometimes things don't stick to washi tape and that kind of stuff. You could certainly do it with washi tape if you wanted to adhere all of those pages together. But now I'm just going to kind of make a what would be considered a book block or a text block for this little journal. So I'm basically now going to cut a paper that will wrap around this whole entire text block, that this will adhere into the cover, which will make more sense. So I cut this down to give myself about 1/2 of an inch of spine. So my actual journal is just a little bit less than 1/2 an inch that when it was completed, but I want to give myself a little bit of room to grow. So I'm creating my spine just ever so slightly larger so that this book can kind of bulk up as I'm working through the month. And so what I'm going to do, I just cut this one paper. This is a vintage paper from a House of Books subscription. I loved the texture of it, and it just worked really well for this project. And I'm using a Yoo-Hoo glue stick here to do this. The papers are pretty thin, and so this is going to adhere on here really well. And you can see I'm just kind of lining this up on this one side. Now, I'm not going to apply glue to the actual spine. I want the spine to be free, and the reason for that is so that it still gives the movement and it will still let my book expand as I need it to. So I'm only adhering the front and the back, basically the kind of end papers are what these are going to end up being. So that's just a way you don't want to glue down that spine on there and not be able to have it kind of be expandable, if that makes sense. This is sort of the way that you would create a text block if you were, doing a real binding. For the project that I'm doing, I'm not really worried about it. This is, not technical. I'm using leftover pages from a book and really creating just a junk journal. So I am going to use a manila folder here to create my cover. So I'm just going to measure this and cut this down. It ends up being about 9 inches across. And I'm going to score this to give myself that 1/2 inch spine that I need. So I just figured out where 1/2 was and kind of went 1/4 an inch on either side. And that is going to be where my spine is. I'm going to fold that, just making sure really quickly that this is actually going to fit around my book. I kind of was doing this sort of on the fly. I just decided I wanted to create this journal. And then on the inside, I have these beautiful ledger papers. These are vintage ledgers. I got these from my House of Books subscription. I'll put my affiliate link down below. That link does save you a little bit of money when you shop there, but I love ledger paper, and so I just thought this would be really fun. I have an idea for how I want to work through Junk Journal July, and so this kind of ledger paper is going to just give me a real neutral background to glue everything down to. So now, again, I'm using this as a Yoo-Hoo glue stick. I'm just generously applying this, and normally I would work from the outside in, but just because of what I'm working with, I'm going to be sewing this, and I wanted the stitching to show through the ledger paper instead of trying to cover it up, so if that makes sense. So I'm doing basically the lining of this first. It's kind of backwards to how I normally cover a journal, but that's because I want a specific look to it. So I am trying to save as much of this ledger paper as I can. So I am going to let this it's going to overlap basically where the where the spine is, and then I'll trim down another piece to fit there on the edge. I'm just making sure to score this spine really well so that I don't lose it, because I'm going to be adding some fabric on the outside. So you could do this with, I've done this with like mailing envelopes, you know, like manila envelopes. You can create journals out of really just about anything. Just kind of depends on the style that you like. I really want a really junky type junk journal for this particular project. So again, just adding some more adhesive here, and then I'm going to put that last little bit of ledger down. I'm just kind of butting it right up next to the other one, and then I will trim off the excess there. And now I want to add my fabric to the cover. So that was the inside of the cover, and now I'm going to add some fabric. This is actually some vintage fabric from a House of Books. Also, this is just one that one of my kits came in it, and I just love this fabric. I've actually created a couple other journals out of this fabric. I really like the colors and everything, so I'm going to use that. And I was kind of trying to decide how I wanted to do this part. Again, I hadn't really thought this completely through when I started, but for right here, what I'm doing is I am using Helmar 450 Quick Dry. I mentioned this in a video recently. Apparently this is no longer available in the States. I've had mine forever, but they do have Helmar does have a craft glue that's very similar. But what I'm doing is just applying it kind of around the middle, because I'm going to stitch around the edges. I just wanted it to hold the fabric in place for me. So what I'm doing, I have my little, this is a Singer Quick Stitch Plus. It's just a little handheld sewing machine. It's the only sewing machine I have. I don't really know how to sew. If you've watched my channel before, I've mentioned that at some point I will invest in a sewing machine, but right now this little guy does the job okay for me. So I also should know I have two different threads. So I have my top thread, which is white, and I have my bobbin thread, which is black. I wanted it to be that way. So I've had it in my sewing machine this way for a while, because it was just for a project I was working on. So anyway, I went around the first time, just really quickly sewed everything down, and then I went back and trimmed off all the excess fabric. And now I'm going to go around really messily 2 more times, just to add several layers of stitching. And this is what the inside looks like. I know this look is not for everybody. Again, this is just how I wanted this journal to look. I want it to look like a junk journal. So it's messy stitching. Again, I don't know how to sew anyway, so I'm just, but it's the look that I kind of gravitate toward for this project. So now I need to kind of glue in my text block. So what I'm going to do is I start with the spine, and I'm gluing this down again with that Helmar 450 Quick Dry in the spine, but this is only going to glue that outer page. This isn't going to actually glue like the actual pages of the signature, if that makes sense, because again, I didn't add glue there. So this is what's going to allow my cover to flex and to kind of grow as this book gets thicker, as I'm collaging and doing things in this journal. So for the inside covers, what I'm using is some art glitter glue. You could use PVA glue of any kind, really. I have actually Bookbinders glue, but it was just easier to grab my my art glitter glue because it was sitting right there. So, and it will work just as well. So I'm just holding it down for a second, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the back cover, and then I'm just going to apply pressure here just for a couple minutes while that glue kind of sets, and then so this is kind of how it looks. Every other page right now basically has that, shipping tape down the center, but you can paint over that, you can draw on it, you can do whatever. But for the inside cover, I wanted to add some more of that ledger back in because most of it obviously got covered up with my pages for my end papers. I really wasn't thinking that part through all the way. And so I want to add some of the ledger paper back in. So I went ahead and added another piece of that shipping tape there so that it would cover up those holes from those pages, because again, they were torn from a book. And then I'm going to use this ledger here at the front to create a little pocket, and I'll probably put my junk journal July prompts in there, or whatever. But I just wanted to have some more of that beautiful ledger paper in there. So I did that, and then I decided I really wasn't crazy about those holes. Originally, I thought I would just go ahead and like add some washi tape or something as I was working through. But just for continuity, I went ahead and just cut some more and then added them back in just to make sure everything is nice and secure. There's not going to be holes. So if I'm doing paint or whatever, it's not going to leak through those holes, whatever. So I just went through and took a minute to do that. And that'll just give me a place kind of to jumping off place when I'm working through this journal. And then for the back cover, I'm going to create another little pocket with some more of this beautiful ledger paper. This ledger paper you can get a la carte, by the way. They have packets of vintage papers and just different things outside of this normal subscription at A House of Books. So anyway, this is basically what my little journal is going to look like for Junk Journal July. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.